stay with us for the Ant and the Aardvark.
I shudder to think that I almost betrayed you, He-Man, in favor of Skeletor.
Well, but you made the right decision. That's what counts.
The thought of all those riches was awfully tempting. On second thought, I'd rather have your friendship, He-Man, Cringer. In fact, knowing you has made me the richest boy in the world.
And we're much richer for knowing you. Until later.
And this keeps coming back to me in a recurring kind of a nightmare as I think of Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants more. He's like the addict. He wants more of everything. He wants New York City changed to Trump City. Trump is constantly pushing onward. I know if he was happy, there was some internal peace, there was a quietude about him, he wouldn't have to keep trying to prove something. And let's look at this from a Freudian point of view. He's always building towering phallic-shaped edifices. It's an edifice complex. This man obviously has a small dick, or Howard Trump's dick. What's his name? Donald Trump, Howard Trump. Fuck you, Trump. You're so unimportant, man. I don't even know your first name. That's your brother. He's the one with brains in the family.
Did you speak with President Trump on January 6th?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with the president last week. I speak with the president all the time. I spoke with him on January 6th. I mean, I talk with President Trump all the time, and that's I don't think that's unusual. I would expect members of Congress to talk with the president of the United States when they're trying to get done the things they told the voters in their district to do. I'm actually kind of amazed sometimes that people keep asking this. But of course, I talk to the president all the time. I talk to him, like I said, I talked with him last week.
On January 6th, did you speak with him before, during, or after the Capitol was attacked?
I'd have to go. I spoke with him that day after. I think after. I don't know if I spoke with him in the morning or not. I just don't know. I'd have to go back and. I mean, I don't know that when those conversations happened. But what I know is I spoke with him all the time
on KTLA back in the day. Anyway, Christy and Joe Horton. 9th anniversary, and Hugh Janus turning 10. We'd mentioned.
I'm sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. It's one of those. It's one of those.
I totally fell for it, didn't I?
For that, we'll go ahead to our next question now. Mrs. Alexis Toon, you are live with the senator. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Senator. I am a proud Kentucky citizen, and I just wanted to tell you to get fucked.
Well, you probably haven't been able to watch any of the hearing for January 6th because you've been working.
I watched quite a bit of the testimony last night. I think I watched all of the opening statements anyway.
Your thoughts?
It was really moving. It's great that they're using the word terrorist, and they've established that they're using the word terrorist, so that's the word to use from now on, not rioters. Rioters just sounds like a racist buzzword to me, rioters.
Does it?
It does. That's why that's what it's usually used, the BLM rioters. It conjures an image of black guys.
So I was a rioter?
Stealing TVs and stuff.
Were you a rioter? I was a marcher.
I mean, it could be both, I guess. You know, sometimes there's a little spillover. I like that they've already pinned it on Trump. I mean, all four officers made statements that terrorists actually said to their faces, "We're here because Trump invited us."
Yep.
So it's nice that that's established on day one. And yeah, it was really, really moving. Obviously, you would have to be a complete psychopath to not be moved by the testimony. So that brings up Laura Ingraham. And I think Tucker Carlson, didn't they actually make fun of they ridiculed the officers on the programs last night? Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham.
I've not watched it. I heard that they did. I know that McCarthy and McConnell, those guys couldn't watch it. McConnell said he was working. He's a senator, you know.
It's too bad it wasn't recorded. You could watch it later.
Yeah. Maybe someday they'll get that technology.
Yeah. I wonder how I saw it.
Your TV thing must just all be on delay.
I opened my laptop. I went to the YouTubes. I typed some words in, and it came up.
No.
Yeah. You know, he obviously, Senator McConnell doesn't know this technology, so
No.
somebody should point it out to him.
Well, and then, did you see the, what do I want to call it? Little press conference-y thing that Matt and Marjorie and a couple others were having out front of the Justice Department at the same time those officers were testifying?
A little protest. No, I didn't see. I can guess what they were saying, but
They think that the rioters, the insurrectionists, are being treated harshly and they should all be let out.
Okay. Why didn't Trump pardon them when he had the chance?
Well, because that would have had to have been admitting that they had done something wrong, perhaps. I don't know.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's a blanket pardon.
There's
He could
sure
have.
that the preemptive just in case you ever do anything and I'm not around to fix it.
It would be more like a blanket pardon for anyone who is accused of a crime during the peaceful, loving protest of January 6th. Something along those lines. And then everybody would just be, so you wouldn't have to target the specific crimes. Everybody who was there that day is pardoned, is free from,
You're absolved.
Yeah, I mean, he legally could have done that. I don't know why he didn't. I don't know if he was talked out of it or if he was, I mean, word was that he was so disgusted by the look of the crowd, but, you know, he was expecting guys in Brooks Brothers suits, I guess, to be carrying the torches.
Seriously?
He was legitimately disappointed that they didn't look good. I forget exactly who he remarked that to, but they spilled the beans. Yeah, so
Those are his
but I don't
people.
know.
That's what they've always looked like. Why is he surprised now?
Well, he never has really been up close to his people. I mean, he sees them in the stands when he does his little Klan rallies, but he never gets close to them.
True.
So,
Sorry, Donnie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Donnie.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there any prognosis for how long the hearings are going to last? I mean, hopefully it's open-ended.
Yes.
There's no.
It will last as long as it takes.
Okay, good.
Yes. I will show this one thing and then we can go back to the serious part of it. In the protests out front, it got stopped because there were, shall we call them counter-protesters, about traitors, and, oh, dang it, why can't I remember what the signs read? Traitors is, and then it was sit down, and this one woman just kept going, Matt, are you a child? I mean, just harassing him and just following him.
Nice. There was a guy who got to him like a week ago, or last week. Actually, the two of them, they were on the, where were they? They were like on the beach or something. They were giving some sort of a Nazi rally, and this guy comes running. He's a YouTube comic, and he dressed in this over-the-top American flag shirt and pants and hat
Ensemble.
and everything. And he runs out. It's like a meet and greet, I guess. So he runs out and stands between them, and he's way too excited to be there, and they're just playing along. Oh, it's funny that he's so excited. He turns to Green and says, "Everybody thinks you're crazy. You're not crazy. I don't think you're crazy." And then he turns to Gates and says, "And everybody thinks you're a pedophile. I don't think you're a pedophile. You are not a pedophile." He says it 3 times in rapid succession. Meanwhile, he puts his arm around him. And that's what Gates actually... Green, if you look at her, she's got that stupid Sasquatch Barbie grin on her face. Doesn't even get it. She just thinks, yep, they do think I'm crazy. And you don't. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Gates gets it. Gates kind of gets it. He looks like he kind of gets it on the 3rd pedophile. And he kind of recoils and looks for security to get to the guy. But I think it's more about him putting his hand around on his shoulder. I think that Gates doesn't allow that.
Oh, we don't.
But yeah, it's a funny clip.
Oh, I shall have to find this.
Yeah, I'll link to it in the program notes.
Let's see. And then the usual disgustings are trying to now link January 6th to Nancy Pelosi and say it was all her fault.
What's the evidence for that? I mean, what?
No, they don't ever present evidence.
It's coming like in 2 weeks.
Perhaps. That is
once we get in front of a judge.
That's the magical time frame, isn't it?
It is.
She was in charge of the Capitol Police, which I believe is news to everyone. Just all of this. It's all just it's still a ploy by the Democrats to try and get the Republicans. Still a love fest. Still just a bunch of tourists.
So in this scenario, Nancy Pelosi, brought in Antifa posing as Trump supporters? Or did she dupe Trump supporters into storming the Capitol? What happens in this particular scenario? I know there's a few to choose from.
Well, here's the interest. The tourists didn't do anything wrong in any scenario. But because something happened, although it wasn't the tourists, somehow because, again, they're okay. Somehow Nancy Pelosi just didn't have the Capitol ready. But the tourists were still okay.
Are they admitting that there were crimes committed and deaths took place, or are they pretending that didn't happen? Okay.
No, the police officers are actors.
Oh, okay. That makes
I
sense.
believe-
I've been on sets before, and there have been police officers on sets before, so that totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes on TV and in movies, you see people portraying police officers, so it totally makes sense. They're actors. Okay.
And they're
okay.
I mean, absolute, total, and complete method actors to allow themselves to be beaten.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Tased.
You have to commit. It's yes and.
Absolutely. And they did, didn't they?
Along those lines, and this is really, really awful, but there's a Vice story about this, which I'll link to. One of the kids who was in Parkland, one of the kids who lived through the shooting, his father has become a QAnon guy, and his father actually believes that it didn't happen, or there was a false flag, they were all crisis actors. Now, this is literally the father of the son who actually lived through this.
I can't even.
No, it's impossible to. But this is how this cult works. It completely takes over this person's mind. I mean, how you could.
That was your child.
Yeah.
You numbnut.
Yeah, and the child is now, I guess, a little bit older. What would they be, 20 now? 19, 20?
Depends on what grade.
I guess. Well, that's true. I guess there were. Yeah, I mean, the kid's pretty reasonable about it. He's like, my dad's a cultist. It's really sad.
Oh, I hope he doesn't have anything to do with him at all.
Well, I get the impression that he's still living at home, or he's, still relying on him to some degree.
That just How?
Yeah, I can't even imagine fathoming it.
I mean, did you not go to the school? Did you not have to pick your child up from the school?
Yeah.
How did this all happen?
Once you start falling down that rabbit hole, I guess there's a point of no return.
You got to have a sanity check on that one, and that person failed.
I mean, I guess they move in increments, and once you get so far down this rabbit hole, you hit a wall and you think, well, this part's crazy though. Then the choice is either to realize that you've been duped or go along with it and say, oh, well, I've come this far. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe, and when they're dug in that deep, I mean, that's how cults operate.
Other than the fact that nothing that Q has been saying was going to happen has happened. To my knowledge.
Literally nothing. He's worse than Nostradamus.
Hey.
But Nostradamus.
I would rather have, I think, my parent be drunk dancing on a pole 75 places around town than have to say, yeah, that's what my parent believes. But weren't you in the school? Yeah. Yeah, I was. But, Daddy's having a hard day.
Oh, he's,
we might not be making Q friends.
It's been a few years now, but I was Facebook friends with the actress. Do you remember Sean Young? Beautiful woman.
Name, but I don't know why.
In the 80s, one of the most beautiful actresses ever.
Yes,
the Chris Hemsworth of actresses. She was in Blade Runner.
I don't know if I do.
Well, I think that's two for Hemsworth. Okay, I get it. She was this ballpark. She was in Blade Runner. She was in Stripes. Gorgeous actress, but she also had a little bit of a reputation being kind of a Looney Tune. Well, there's that, and also she did a movie with James Woods. I guess they had an affair, and James Woods, I believe, was married, and it became kind of a Fatal Attraction thing. Oh man, I think something like she left beheaded dolls on his porch. He had a restraining order against her.
Yeah.
Anyways, when you're the crazy one in a relationship with James Woods. You know, that's
That's
too
it.
far. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. See? We're in agreement. So I was Facebook friends with her, with Sean Young, and I noticed she was kind of right wing and kind of, I don't know. And then she started sharing YouTube videos about Parkland and about school shootings that were from the point of view that they were staged, that they didn't happen. They were staged. They were using crisis actors. All the people that we saw on television were actually crisis actors hired for the occasion. And the idea was that the fascist liberals would be taking guns away from everybody, of course.
As they
Well-
do. Not.
As it happened, it's happened every time. So she shares one of these things, and I think it was right on the heels of a particular school shooting. You know, who knows which one. For whatever reason, that day I was just not in the mood. Normally, I would have just kind of scrolled past. Just wasn't in the mood. I looked at it wasn't so much just that I think she posted it without comment, but it was the comment section from her lunatic friends who were, oh, that's right, I knew it all along. Oh, yeah, they're all crisis actors. And for some reason, it just really rubbed me the wrong way. So I had to, against my better judgment, chime in with something to the effect of, this makes me sick. I would love to see any of you people say these words to the face of a parent who lost their child in one of these school shootings. And I would pay money to watch them kick the shit out of you. Okay.
Ooh, I would have
That's what I
pitched
said.
in.
That's what I said. Okay. I leave it. I'm gone. You know, whatever. I don't look at Facebook all, every hour. A few hours later, I look at my phone. Boom. It's, as the kids say, blows up. I get private messages from Sean Young. 7 of them in all. And I don't remember what the
seriously?
character limit, whatever the character limit is, she would run out of space and start the next one. 7 of them. Took me a while to read them. And the gist of it was, first of all, her first point I certainly concede to. She said, you don't come on my wall, my Facebook page, and curse at people. Okay, I 100% agree with that. And I apologize. I feel like it's your living room. Whatever your rules are. If you don't like cussing, you don't like, I'll cuss on my wall, and I don't, but I don't allow Trump people. I don't allow any pro-Trump stuff on my wall. That gets you banned immediately. And except for maybe a couple of friends I have. Long story. But, so the
friends
gist
from
of,
home.
no,
That
actually,
you just can't give up.
more like people
That
that
was
are,
a joke.
yeah, no, I actually gave all those up. They're pretty easy to give up. Those. So the gist of what she was saying, her first point I conceded to.
Okay.
But the rest of it was that the only reason I'm saying all this stuff is because I'm obviously in on the plot. That she's saying this to me. The only reason that I'm so bent out of shape about this is that I'm clearly involved in the conspiracy.
Clearly.
Clearly. I wish I kept these messages. I don't think I have them, but I'd love to read them again.
Nuts are us.
It was Looney Tunes. And that was pretty much the end of our relationship. This was, I want to say it was pre-Trump, because I know she was definitely riding the Trump train during the whole 2016 build-up, but I don't know. Yeah. And, but that's the story of Sean Young. But God bless her. I hope that.
Go on with your crazy self, girl.
Yeah, I hope that she honestly, I do sincerely hope that she understands that this is just sick. That's really sick behavior of people, and that she doesn't believe that stuff. I really do.
Well, you hope
God
so,
bless
but
her.
then the problem is when you are associating with all of these other people who profess the same thing, you don't have anybody checking you.
True, very true.
One thing that's funny is Trump's sole campaign guy finally admitted that they paid all those people at the base of the escalator when he came down that first time. Finally admitted that they were all paid $50 apiece. So that has been admitted to. That's now fact check.
Well, really, any accusation they made against the Democrats is an admission, right? Isn't it basically, can't we just unpack every single... I mean, they said the same thing. Every time Didn't they say that about Biden's inauguration?
It's
They
that simple
obviously
phrase,
paid people.
normally the first to accuse is the first to do.
Ah.
So, yes, anything that
We said
Biden's team was accused of, they probably did. And then,
we said he who smelt it dealt it. Kind of the same thing.
oh, well, that's fancy.
Have you been watching the Olympics at all?
I haven't been watching the Olympics. The only I've been picking up stories here and there. I know that Japan beat China in ping pong.
Oh.
Which, yeah, right? I mean, outside of jailing and murdering dissidents, what is China better at than ping pong? I mean,
Manufacturing
the
really
disgrace-
cheap little party goods.
Yeah, they're pretty good at that too. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
The disgrace they must be feeling right now for ping pong. I mean, I know they don't do harikiri, but if they did, this would be the time.
Huh.
Outside of that, I don't know too much. What about you?
You go back to national. This 17-year-old girl from Alaska
Mm-hmm.
won a gold medal swimming. First gold medal ever for anyone from Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
In the state of Alaska, I guess they have 150-meter pool. And I believe it was the 200 butterfly? No, 200 breaststroke. And so she trains in a 25-meter pool. So she doesn't even have a proper pool.
Mm.
And they were watching this other gal from the U.S. who has won this many times. This whole big story, she really tries to intimidate the other swimmers and this whole thing. And so they're showing her and then the other gal from Russia or someplace who they thought could be the real contender because she had beat this American in the last race or this time on. So nobody's really talking much about the little gal from Alaska. They talked about, what a swan song story kind of thing, this young gal, but they didn't say too much. And then you're watching it, and these other two are competing very closely, but the little gal from Alaska's been hanging in there, and then all of a sudden, she just swoops right up. And of course, nobody's family can be there. So they show them, and the mom has an iPad type thing up, and so you can't really see her face. But the kids from her school, she had just graduated. So they had a big watch party, I think, at the school. All these kids just go nuts celebrating for her. They're jumping up and down, and they just, the old metal folding chairs that you have at schools and such.
Right.
Some of the chairs flipped over, and it was such a cool thing to see. It was so much fun.
Wow. What's her name? Simone?
Simone Biles.
Yes, the U.S. gymnast. Now, I don't think I quite understand. I know that she dropped out.
Yes.
Because, and she cited mental issues? Is that, mental health issues?
The stress is just got to be too much. It was the way that they said they saw something happening. Now, she has 4 moves named after her, from what I understand, on different events. She was supposed to do a twist with 2 flips or 2 twists and something, but she only did 1. One of the flips or 1 twist. I didn't actually see what happened. And then she landed really hard, but she had also gone too far in a floor exercise and just went clear outside the bounds. And people could see that, something was going on. And when they saw her face at the end of that vault, and when they show it, you can see that there just isn't. And she said the pressure of being, and she's honest about it. I mean, that would be like Michael Phelps saying, yeah, I'm a pretty good swimmer, and I think the people, hope I'll do well. No. She knows that she is the star on that team and a major attraction to see her compete. She's phenomenal. And she recognized that her mental health was not good, is not good, and knew that for the benefit of herself and her team, she needed to step aside. And I think that's a great show of strength. And so she took herself out of the team competition, and now she has taken herself out of the individual at this point. Will she compete in anything along the way? Yet to be determined, from what I understand. And a lot of people are really supporting her, but then there are some, the you-know-whos, who are bashing her and calling her a quitter.
The lunatic right doesn't approve.
No.
No. Now, these are the people who say the government shouldn't compel you to do anything, but she should be compelled to participate compete in the Olympics. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Perfect sense if you're a lunatic.
Yeah. You can, have your whoever you're talking with. They can be right there, tell you step on the mat, or tell you. No, I think it's an incredible show of bravery to just say, look, it would be great. I can't. I can't. I'm sorry, but no can do, little boo. As my sweet little son always said to me, no can do, little boo.
You know who Charlie Kirk is? Filling the void that was created when Rush Limbaugh died.
He has a really snotty tweet.
He has a really small face and a big head. Like the features of his face are really small, like Humpty Dumpty.
So a person who has no abilities, no real talent, couldn't accomplish anything like these folks do, and he's going to comment?
Well, no, he accomplished one thing, which was his organization. I know Toilet Paper USA is the parody of it, but it's, what is it, something USA. They bust in 20 busfuls of terrorists on 1/6. 80 buses full. He had a little caravan going there. So what did he say? He called her weak. We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles. She's also very selfish. She's immature. And she's a shame to the country, says Charlie Kirk. Oh, also, she's totally a sociopath. That's what he says. What kind of person skips the gold medal match? Who does that? It's a shame to the nation. You just gave a gift to the Russians. My God. Yeah. Okay.
He should be silenced. He
Yeah.
should, put in a timeout. He should be put. He doesn't have any. Ugh.
They only want attention. I feel dirty for even mentioning him because that's all he wanted.
And I'm like, dang it, we just gave him some.
You know, they're one-upping each other, and who can say the most outrageously stupid thing? And there is no bottom. They're racing each other to the bottom, but there is no bottom. So it's gonna keep on coming.
Digging. Keep digging. I think no. She's getting a lot of support as she should.
No, I hope she's getting support. I mean, I know it ain't gonna come from the right wing. I'll tell you that.
No.
Did we mention she's black? I don't know if that had anything to do with this, but
Well, and Asian.
well, it's rock paper scissors for these guys. Black wins every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're half black, you're black, baby. To a racist, actually, that's worse.
Barack
to a
Obama,
racist.
Halle Berry.
That's worse. That really pisses them off because then they have to envision a multiracial coupling that created that child. Yeah, and they just hate to do that 8 times a day for about 8 to 9 minutes at a time. They hate it. They hate it.
Bite your tongue.
No, not into that.
Somebody needs to slam these folks down.
Well, one of them, Steven Crowder, right? Crowder, yeah, Louder with Crowder. He's one. They would look like, if you look at them in a row, they look like Dick Tracy villains. Like one of them's got a big head with a little face. One of them's really short. Ben Shapiro is really short, and he's got big ears. And Steven Crowder is like this. He's the buff one, so he's got like this big buff upper body, right? And he has to have his guns with him wherever he goes. So he has a holster, the shoulder holster with a gun, like a sidearm. While he does a podcast, he has to have his gun on his podcast because he's that much of a man. But he got spanked because their shtick is they pretend to debate with people. They pretend to debate with leftists. And it's like they'll go to colleges. They'll do a college tour. They'll go from college to college. And they'll invite the best leftist there to debate them. And it's not a debate. They just yell at them. But they always win, quote unquote win, because basically they gish gallop. They just keep throwing stuff out. And, you know, these are 19-year-olds that they're actually debating. So, yeah, they can always post a win. But they absolutely refuse to anybody who's actually from the left who's good at debating. And there are a lot of people like that. There's a guy named Sam Cedar, and he has a podcast. Turning Point USA is Charlie Kirk's thing. Toilet Paper USA is the parody site. Yeah, Turning Point USA. They sponsored 80 buses for the wreck. And hopefully he'll be called to testify.
No kidding.
Yeah. So Crowder does this thing where he's a bully. They're all bullies. The only way they can quote unquote win is by bullying. So he was going on this podcast of this guy who's not a political guy at all. He's just a YouTube guy. And so this was a slam dunk. He was going to get on there and just debate this libtard about vaccinations or whatever. And this libtard pulled an end around and had Sam Cedar on a hookup. And Steven Crowder, that was his worst nightmare, was having Sam Cedar step in as the ringer And he freaked out. He literally just freaked out. They cut from him to his sidekick, who was sitting on the other end of the studio, just sat there nervous, like so that Crowder couldn't even be on camera because he was like so flustered. And then he fled. Yeah, like the big baby he was. It's a great clip to watch.
No, but he couldn't actually take it?
Oh no, he left on principle because it was a lie. I will not participate in a debate made under false pretenses. Yeah, that was So there, the internet was not kind to him. The internet was very unkind to poor little Stephen Crowder, louder with Crowder.
When you don't have anything right to say and you can't tell the truth, just be loud. Right?
Yeah.
Is that who he is?
Pretty much, yeah. I can't attest to him being a drug taker because I don't know that. But I would say that his behavior on his podcast is not markedly different from a person who has ingested cocaine.
Oh.
I will say that.
Oh.
Which does tend to make one louder. And Ben Shapiro, the little guy, he's the one who famously had to tweet out about the WAP song, the end of civilization when that song came out, the wet ass. He very famously, yeah, do you remember this? He tweeted that if she really does have this thing that she talks about in the song, that she should get medical help because his wife, who is a medical doctor, by the way, said that that's not normal. It's not normal to be wet like that. He actually said that. So in other words, Ben, you kind of just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't got it.
Yeah, and again, the internet was not very kind to Ben over that one. That was a
rightfully so.
Source of great comedy.
I'm kind of stuck on.
But they don't care. These guys don't.
A woman who was a doctor married him, so she's intelligent enough to get through med school.
Oh, Ben Carson's a doctor. I mean.
Yeah.
You know, just because you can solve a Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds doesn't mean anything other than you can solve a Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, and Rand Paul. Did you hear Rand Paul challenging Dr. Fauci?
Certainly did. He was in the, he made it to the intro last week.
Yeah, that just still slays me. Doctor, yep. Now the new thing, though, because, yes, with the Delta variant coming and are there breakthrough infections? Yes, there are. I was kind of trying to think about how these people, like, somebody to, well, is it masks or the vaccine? Which is, it's getting confusing. Well, no, not to most people, but to you, I suppose so. And this wasn't Rand. I don't know who this was. But I kind of decided that perhaps the way, since people aren't grasping the whole science idea that if it's new, you learn as you go, think of it as a criminal case. At first, you walk in and you look at the crime scene and you learn a little bit, right? So we look at COVID-19. They looked at it. They learned a little bit. But then the crime scene, you go back again. You find out who the witnesses are. You question them. You learn a little more. And you just keep delving and you learn more. It's not, everything isn't just thrown at you immediately. It's a process. Learning about a new disease, a new virus, is a process. Why is the idea of process so hard for them to grasp? Other than the fact that they just want to be, I mean, do they actually get it? Or are they just pouting and being babies and obstinate just to be obstinate?
I think it depends on who you're talking about. Rand Paul, for instance, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not stupid. He's really not stupid. And that's,
so
I mean,
he's
you can tell
being
that's
obstinate
why.
just to be obstinate?
Oh, sure. The strategy is to confuse you over, they do this all the time, by picking apart, oh, no, you used the wrong word there. And then once they do that,
they're killing their own voters.
Once you fall for that bait, they've shifted the argument away from where it was. And that's all they want to do. They just want to get
killing their own voters.
Yeah, they don't. He's really an evil person, Rand Paul.
When do they start to understand that they are killing their own voters?
They will. I mean, I suppose I'm sure they're doing, they're crunching the numbers every day, and it hasn't reached that tipping point yet. It will. So yeah, there will come a point where they'll look at the numbers and it's like, oh shit, all of the, well, I mean, no, because they rigged the elections anyway. It's Kentucky. What are we talking about? They don't have to. Don't worry, they got it in the bag. I mean, more people voted for McConnell than people lived in certain counties. More people in certain counties voted than actually lived in those counties.
Then why aren't we investigating this one?
Yeah, because nobody called for it. Nobody
Perhaps
called
we
for an
should.
investigation. Well, independently, people are doing it, but there's no official. No. There should have been the day of. The Democrats, I don't know who could have done this. I'm not sure who could have done this, but once they've established that the lie that the election was quote unquote stolen, then they should have said, okay, let's bring everybody in and testify. Bring Trump in, we'll bring everybody in, testify about the stolen election, and get to the bottom of it.
That's right.
They didn't want that. They didn't want that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's disturbing to me. I know no problem with that first day of testimony. It was wonderful. Thankfully, we didn't have any Rand Paul or a Jim Jordan there to derail things because that's what they would have done. So thankfully, that's not happening. I'm only worried that there's already a debate about whether they should subpoena Trump to testify. It's like, why would there be a debate about that? He's already been named by all 4 witnesses as being the instigator of this. Of course, you bring him in and ask him questions. Of course you do.
Whoa.
It's like Charlie Manson didn't kill anybody. He told people to kill people. He still got life in prison. It's insane that there's even a debate about it. Well, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. Of course you do.
You should.
Of course you do.
You bring in Josh Hawley, Jim Jordan, Banks.
Oh, of course. Yep.
Mo Brooks.
The ones who gave the tours
Green.
on the 5th. Mm-hmm. Yep. McCarthy.
Get rid of them all.
Yep.
If you want, if these folks want to vote in another Republican, but try and get somebody sane.
No,
you got to try really hard.
And you don't have to say that they're suspects. You subpoena them because they're witnesses. They were there. Of course they're witnesses. Of course Trump saw the whole thing on TV. We saw him seeing it on TV. Of course you do. I don't know what I'm saying, except of course you do.
Yeah, I had a conversation. Didn't go well. In the end, with somebody who their whole thing was, don't they have over 500 or so Capitol Police? Why weren't they all there? Why weren't they all there?
Good question. Yeah, it's an excellent
well,
question.
Because they weren't allowed to call them in. But guess what? If those people hadn't been allowed at the Capitol, the FBI, all these other people, if the people who could have helped them out had been called in immediately, it wouldn't have gotten to that point. So this person was trying to blame. They were victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
These police officers wouldn't have gotten beat. It's like, do you not feel anything for what they went through? Where were the rest of the Capitol Police? Are you kidding me? You're joking, right? You're saying all this just to get me riled? It's like, well, you know who had the power to make those phone calls, to make that phone call. Said there were National Guardsmen sitting on a bus for 3 hours, just waiting. Well, I'm not talking about the National Guard. Well, there are some of the people who would have been called in to help.
Yeah, we need to get to the bottom of that. It's an excellent question. Let's find out who made the call to stand them down. We know Michael Flynn's brother was involved, so that's a good place to start. Let's bring Michael in, get him under oath, get his brother under oath. Let's find out what happened.
Well, they said there was a 4-person process that was unusual. They know what part of that is as far as the National Guard is concerned. And again, they changed the process that day.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no direct line. One person had to talk to somebody else who had to get the approval of somebody else. And they sat there. The people didn't respond. And then again, the other thing is, you just heard wind that there might be a Black Lives Matter protest, march, and people are there in full combat gear. There's no hesitation. There's no, let's wait and see what happens. And then it proceeded to, well, that fencing, they left that fence up for so long. Why that cost us so much money? Why was that fence still up? I don't know.
Let's find out.
Well, we know why it was up. Because they were continuing to get threats.
But the answer to every one of those questions should be, let's investigate.
But they already know, but they already know some of these. And
anybody who brings that up as a question, they're not bringing it up in good faith. So if we just don't take the bait and say, yeah, I agree. It's like whenever Epstein's name comes up, then it's like, well, what about Bill Clinton? You say, yes, I agree. If he was a pedophile, then put him in jail. Absolutely. I agree with you.
He wasn't a pedophile.
That makes, no, I'm saying if he was, let's investigate it. Let's investigate it. Let's find out exactly who was.
When they've already looked into it and the answers are there and they're just complaining and biatching.
Right. No, they're just trying to change the subject.
Out of ignorance. No, it's out of sheer ignorance because this person is an avid devotee of a particular phone news channel where they're not going to give any truth or any facts. And so it's the same round conversation that we have over and over and over. And then one woman got on and said, yeah, she wants to completely get rid of the police, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but that's one woman. That is one person.
But who wants to get rid of the police?
Bush is her last name. And so then I said, okay, tell me, what do they mean when they say defund the police? Because we've had this conversation more times than I care. To get rid of them. To get rid of the police. No, that's not the truth. And you know that. We have been over this. There's no room for truth and facts because it doesn't fit into the whiny, let's make everybody angry narrative. And if there was any logic, any intelligence in these conversations, I'll have the conversation all day long. But then this person does just what the other one, the voice raises. And it's like, there's no reason for us to be screaming, blah. I'm like, I'm not screaming. I was as calm then as I am right now. And no, if you want to have a conversation, know something. And I don't know everything, but the same things over and over, I'll look them up. I'll figure out, I'll learn what I can. But it's annoying.
I'm sorry, these are people that you're on conference calls with or
No.
in person? In person.
The new season of Married at First Sight. They're in Houston this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the first couple, Johnny and Val, this is the one that I'd seen the previews. He's standing up at the altar. She comes around the corner. You know how there's always the voiceover stuff? But
I have not seen it.
But in TV shows, how they do voiceovers with
Okay. No, I understand that. Yeah.
And then she turns to Dad. I know him. They're both 35. But when they were in college, they were each the president of the Vietnamese student organization at their respective schools. So they knew each other a bit from them back in the day. They had never really hung out that much. They seem to be very happy. The next couple seems happy, although in the previews later on, or it shows, she says, I think we're getting a divorce. This couple, another one that got married, I didn't get to hear anything they were saying.
So tell me what the premise of it is now. It's a reality show, but it's like a...
Yes, and they'll choose a city, and then all these people will go and apply to these experts. And they have a pastor, psychologist, and relationship expert. And they'll interview all these thousands of people and look for 4 or 5 couples. 5 1 year, they had 6 or something, that they match. And so they go and tell them about 2 weeks beforehand, we found a match for you, you're getting married. They don't see each other until she turns to go down the aisle. They don't know the person's name. They know nothing about them. So the first words they exchange are when they're standing at the altar. Uh-huh.
There's a version of that in Pakistan, I think it's called Marriage.
They have the show in Australia as well. I watched some episodes of that just because the accents were so cool. Yeah, I did. It's hilarious. And it honestly has worked for some people. Now, in Australia, they actually had a couple that was our age. The rest of these people, 20s, some in the 30s. One guy was, I want to say 38. He's probably the oldest that I've seen in the U.S. But they did have, in Australia, a couple in their 50s. Not that we're there yet, or maybe we are, but who knows? Who cares?
I'm comfortable saying 50s.
Yeah.
I don't want to put a real fine point on it, but I'm comfortable with 50s. I'm actually the same age as Bob Odenkirk. Do you know what happened? Today was a very stressful day because Bob Odenkirk is the actor from Better Call Saul, which is a spinoff of Breaking Bad. He was also in Mr. Show, Ben Stiller Show, Tim and Eric, fantastic actor. Better Call Saul, one of the best things on TV. He collapsed on set last night, and and there was no word outside of that he collapsed on set and was taken to the hospital. And there was absolutely no updates for almost 24 hours, which, of course, made everybody speculate as to how bad it was. Because people figured had it been, he had a mild heart attack, we would be at the end of that within a few hours, and they would report, he's resting. They wouldn't even state his condition. They didn't say stable or anything. So yeah, speculation was completely running rampant that it was a heart attack, it was a stroke, he was in a medically induced coma, and obviously it's all just speculation. Finally, just a couple of hours ago, his son tweeted that he's pulled out of it. It was a heart thing. They're not going into details. They want privacy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good news. I mean, he's really like one of my favorite actors, and it was so out of the blue that, there's a lot of actors who are, I've been watching for years who are getting up there. It's not going to be a big surprise when somebody who's in their 90s goes. It won't be happy, but it won't be a big surprise. But this was just completely out of the blue.
Kind of like John Ritter.
Very much like that, yeah. And he was on set. The speculation at first was because they shoot in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it's pretty hot there. So speculation was that they were shooting outside and he had heat exhaustion or whatever. Turns out they were shooting inside, so that wasn't the thing. Yeah, so I guess he had a heart thing, and he's pulled out of it, which is great news. I mean, it'll be wonderful if they are able to continue the series, but obviously that's not the most important thing.
True.
Yeah. This is the final season. They're shooting it as the final season, the 6th.
You haven't been watching the news yet this evening, have you?
No, I haven't. Why?
So if I had a bit of pseudo music bummer news, or maybe not even pseudo, do you want me to just... Are you a ZZ Top fan?
Oh, well, no, I do follow the news. I don't watch televised news, but I watch.
Well,
I have tickers going, and Dusty Hill died, right? That's
okay.
what you're...
Yeah.
Yeah, of ZZ Top. I can't say, you were asking me, was I a fan of ZZ Top?
Yeah.
Not really. I wasn't, but were you a fan?
I am not a huge ZZ Top fan, which people have tried to shame me for, but I just didn't get it. I mean, there were certain songs they had and such that I liked, but I wasn't a diehard going to the concerts, kind of doing that stuff.
Yeah, their first album I kind of dig, but the real popular stuff like Legs and all that stuff,
yeah,
not so much. I don't really have much of a stomach for that bluesy, I don't know what you'd call it, swampy blues type of, Stevie Ray Vaughan and ZZ Top. They're not swampy. They were like Texas, weren't they? A Texas band. So today was a really, really stressful day. Okay, first of all, let me tell you about my bus ride home. You ready for this? Now, my commute is a bus and a subway ride every day in both directions. Usually pretty pleasant, especially the bus ride. The bus ride is just, I timed it, actually, it's 7 minutes and 29 seconds. And the reason I know that is because I put Oasis Champagne Supernova on my headphones as we pulled out. And when we pulled in to the Port Authority station, and it ended 2 seconds before we pulled into a complete stop. So that's how I know. Anyway, yeah, so just, if you're keeping track at home. So tonight, I'm coming home at the Port Authority bus terminal, which is the Walmart of transportation hubs. A wonderful place to visit this time of year. Oh, and so I'm getting on the bus, and I found my favorite seat, okay? I was talking about the seat, the first seat, those first two seats, no good. First two seats on the left, which are adjacent to the bus driver, no good. That's where you're going through the windshield if you come to a complete stop in the Lincoln Tunnel. Okay. But here's the best seat. You still want to be towards the front because you can get off fast, right?
Yes.
No muss, no fuss. So best seat is directly behind the bus driver. It's a two-seater. Almost always, at least one of those two seats is open. And almost always, if it's not, if one is occupied, there's a woman sitting there and she's got a bag on the seat next to her. So it's always, excuse me, 9 times out of 10. And so I get on the bus, same scenario. There's a woman there with a bag on the seat. I say, excuse me. She pretends to be asleep. Of course, she's not asleep. She just got on the bus. The bus isn't even moving. I say, excuse me, a little louder. And so she picks up her bag, and she picks it up vertically and then puts it back down. Exactly right. So as if I'd asked her, could you please lift your bag? Could you please do one rep of lifting your bag, please? That's not what I said. So I sit my butt down. I don't have the biggest butt in the world. All right. Not the biggest. It's nice, actually, if anybody's interested. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's perfectly sized, perfectly shaped. So it takes up slightly less than a seat, okay, than a full seat. But that's my seat. I paid for that seat. Now I didn't get a good look at her butt, nor did I want to, but it was considerably larger than mine, and she's also got these bags, whatever. Not my fault, not my problem. You pay for one seat, you get one seat. The bus is going to be full anyway. And so she begrudgingly, so I sit down and I point to the bag. Look, and then I point to the seat. You can see where your seat ends and my seat begins, and your bag is on my seat by at least 3 inches. Okay. This turns into a situation because she decides she's not going to move her bag. So I appeal to the authority. I call the ump in here and say, excuse me, to the bus driver. And say, she's not letting me have my seat. So he unstraps himself. He's belted in, by the way. So he unbelts himself and he steps out of his little plexiglass box because he's completely isolated now because they can be assaulted. Okay, so I appeal to the bus driver. He unstraps himself, comes around, says, Miss, you have to give him the seat. Then she pretends that she doesn't speak English, even though she had just spoken English to me. Well, luckily, he speaks Spanish. So I said, oh my God, now she's pretending she doesn't speak English. Meanwhile, so the other guy, the guy who's, I guess, the dispatch guy who's loading people onto the bus gets involved. So he gets on, right? So there's 2 guys and me against this woman. And she's, I don't even know what she's saying to them, but they're like, no, you can't do it. And I know at one point they said policia. So I know they were explaining the severity of the situation to her. As soon as the bus driver turns around and gets into his box, the second he does, she takes her bag and slams it against my leg. Right? Yeah, exactly. And this is a hefty bag too. I mean, I don't know what was in it, but it was a child probably. So I lean around to the bus driver and say, she just hit me. Just the second you walked away, so they both come back and they're like yelling. They're not yelling, but so at this point, this all actually ties into the whole mob mentality in the insurrection, because at this point, there's a bus full of people. A couple of people are getting impatient because it's taken maybe an extra 2 minutes so far. And they want to get home because everybody's important. Everybody has to get home. So during all this, I hear, first of all, a guy directly behind me taps me on the shoulder. And he's like, you can sit here. There's an empty seat next to him. At this point, I was too dug in. And I said, no. Because if I do that, you're just rewarding her for this behavior. You can't reward her for this behavior. She's causing a scene. Well, it goes on a little bit farther. It still probably wasn't a total of 5 minutes from beginning to end here. And a couple seats back from me, I hear a male voice saying, throw them both off. So I stand up, turn around, and say, excuse me? I looked at the guy who I assumed it was coming from, who was like 2 rows behind me. I said, excuse me? And he's like, no, it wasn't me. And there's another guy who like nervously said, I was joking. I was joking. All right. So, this is what I'm talking about. A mob, this is how a mob starts. Because even though I was 100% in the right, 100%, didn't do anything wrong, there would have been a point where the bus would have turned on me. They were ready to turn on me. Because the one guy, they're throwing both off. All it would have taken was, yeah. And another, yeah. Well, let's kill him.
That's probably, yeah.
Ah!